Hello, welcome to Passion Fruit. In this video, we will cover how to do question 1B from the APCSA 2024 exam. I'm going to assume that we've already read and completed part A, so we can jump right into it. If you haven't, there's a link in the description below. Alright, this is all information that we've already seen, so let's see what part B has for us. Part B says, write the simulate many days method. This method uses the simulate one day to simulate this many birds or a bear coming to the feeder on at most this many consecutive days. The simulation returns the number of days that birds or a bear found food at the feeder. Great. They certainly don't make it easy for us in terms of giving us all this information. It's a little bit confusing, so I like to break things down into 3 key steps whenever I'm tackling these FRQs. The first is we're going to gather all the information that we need. What are all the variables and methods that we're going to use? Lay that out. And then number 2, we're going to write out some pseudocode and some logic. Once we have the logic in place, then we can move on to step 3, which is writing out actual Java syntax. Separating out 2 and 3, for me personally, is super helpful. That way I don't have to jump back and forth between the two. Okay, so in terms of information, we already have num birds and num days here in the method parameters, but we will need to use current food to keep track of how much food we still have on any given day. And it's also asking us to use simulate one day. So I'm just going to write that out here. Simulate one day with parameters, because I always tend to forget that we need parameters. Okay, step 1 is done. Let's write out some logic. So intuitively, we know that we're essentially going to loop through a bunch of days, and then within each day we're going to check if we have food. If we have food, then we can simulate one day, and we want to keep doing that until we reach num days. So I will start by writing out, say we're going to loop through a bunch of days starting from, let's just say day 0, maxing out at num days. Boom. All right. Now, what do we want to do within each of these loops? Within each loop, we want to check if we still have food. If we still have food, then we can run simulate one day. And if we don't have food, we're gonna return the day we're on. Awesome. And then of course there's the final condition, right, which is it maxes out at num days. And so if on the last day there's still food, what do we want to do? Well, if there's still food, then we just want to return num days. And we can see that from the examples below. So I really think that's all we need in terms of our pseudocode. It's pretty straightforward. Now let's turn this into Java. So looping through a bunch of days, I'm actually gonna copy this. I'm gonna comment this out. So we're gonna loop through a bunch of days starting from day 0, maxing out at num days. This should be pretty straightforward for a for loop. We're gonna start with, I'm going to use a variable called current day. Current day starts at 0, and we want to keep looping until current day reaches num days. But we don't want to run the loop when it's num days. When it's num days, we just want to return num days. And after every single loop, we're going to increment current day by 1. Boom. All right, what's next? If we don't have food, return the day that we're on. So I'll say if current food, yeah, right here, if current food is equal to 0, then we return current day. All right, and then if we still have food, then we can run simulate one day. Now, interesting thing here is that we don't actually need an else statement or another if statement. We can just do simulate one day birds. And the reason here is, again, because this return statement blasts us out of the entire method, right? And so if there's no food, it just takes us out, and we can assume that if it reaches this part of the code, we have food. All right. And the final part here, return num days, as we specified down below. Okay, I think that's really it. I'm just gonna double check my answer. Looks good to me. Let's see what Passion Fruit AI has to say. Boom. We got 5 out of 5, baby. All right. Well, that's question 1B. Feel free to check it out for yourself. Try it on Passion Fruit. Also, we have a bunch of multiple choice questions, so feel free to check that out as well. Awesome. See you next time.